Okay, in this video we're going to compute a Sharpe ratio. We're going to figure out what months of the year particular stocks have their highest return and their highest Sharpe ratio. In order to do that, we need to start with a pivot table. So insert pivot table, click OK, and I'm going to put the ticker in the column, returns in the values, date from our row label. And let me show you one thing we're going to kind of ignore to make this easier for now. I'm going to do the view here, let me freeze these panes. Look at Nike and NKE, I bet they're the same stock. Going from the NASDAQ to the New York Stock Exchange, do control down, that brings me to the bottom of this data. And look, they switched right there. The 1 just means there was a return for that date. So that appears to be the case. You can double check it by looking at the perm numbers. And UPS, you can see UPS disappeared and then came back. They're two different companies with the same ticker. So I don't want to correct for that. Just I want to teach you the mechanics of using the pivot table. That's something you always have to look for with financial data. So if I change this to the average, well, you go to the value field settings, average. I can also change the number format here to make things look better, which should be wise to do. I can go to number, skip 4 decimals, click OK. And now I can go over here. I want to see which month of the year, so I can group these. And let me tell you exactly what's going on here. This return, 0.0567, 5.67% return for Apple on January 2nd, 1990. But if I group this by months, and I've chosen average, the average daily return for Apple in January was 0.0024. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to take all of this, Control C, let's go to a new sheet, put it right here, Control V, and I want to get rid of the stuff in here. Let's clear that out. I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm going to go home, merge in center, call this averages, and instead of row label, I'm going to call this month. And now I have the average daily return for each one of these months. And note, Nike, there is no November or December for them. I'm not going to bother with those little details right now. So I also need the standard deviation, so I can go value field settings, standard deviation. Do I need sample or population? Technically it's a sample, but does it really matter? No, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to take this, Control C, come over here, Control V. I'm going to call this month as well. And one thing I could do, this is a little easier, Control C, Control V. I think it's easier, maybe it's not. And I can rename this standard deviations. And I need to have, I guess, make that plural to be technically right. And I'm going to copy this whole thing, Control C, come down right here, Control V, and I want to call this my Sharpe ratio. So Sharpe ratios, and what I'll do here is I want to take the return for Apple, and technically I need to subtract the risk-free rate. These are daily returns. The average daily return for the risk-free rate is going to be very, very close to 0. It's not worth the trouble. So when I do a model, the model's not going to be right. Everything I add to make it closer to right is going to have a cost, and for my purposes here, it's not worth the cost of getting that risk-free rate. So I'm just going to skip that part. So technically this isn't a Sharpe ratio, but I'm trying to rank things here, and it's going to be close enough. Okay, so copy that across, double click down, and I have all of my Sharpe ratios. So that's taken me 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Make sure you can do it that quick. You got to be able to do things that fast. Now I want to have my, I want to figure out which months have the highest returns. So I'm going to just copy this just to get the form that I want. I'm going to delete this so you can see what's going on. I wouldn't clear these contents if I was doing this just for myself. So what I want to do here is come and ask a question. Is this the highest return for Apple? So does January have the highest return for Apple? When I ask that question for Excel, is equal if this is equal to the max of the returns for all of the months. If that's true, give me a 1. If not, give me a 0. And if I copy this, there's a little trouble. It doesn't, I gotta make sure I have the relative and absolute cell references done correctly. So pressing F4 makes B4 an absolute cell reference. I want to be able to copy it over to the different columns, just not the row, so put the $ in front of the row. Press F4, same here, and now I copy this down, right? And there it actually works. Now I can copy this across, and that's going to work. And I can't double click this down because I have data in that row right there. So it's important you do this the correct order. Now I can just double click. I want to make sure this is correct, so randomly pick a few places and you see that the Excel is doing what you want it to do. So now the question is, how many stocks had their highest return in January? I do Alt equal. That tells Excel I want to sum something that guesses what I want to sum. Here it guessed correctly. There are 2 of them. Oh, by the way, I don't want to have decimal places here. I need to go to the number. I don't want any decimal places there because it's whole numbers. Double click this down, control down to the bottom, go down 1 more, Alt equal. That 11 is important. It's a robustness check, an accuracy check. I have 11 different ticker symbols, so I should have 11 different top values. Now I can take this, Control C, come down here, line it up in the exact same spot with my Sharpe ratios. See relative to where it was before. Control V. Just double check that that is. Oh, see what happens? This was locked down. I don't want that locked down for the rows because now the rows have changed. So I'm going to take this, lock down the rows again, hit enter. Notice I did that. It changed both at the same time. It just depends on the order that you do things. Go across here, double click, and we have 11. So March had 5 top Sharpe ratios. So from this very small inaccurate sample size, I would say March is the best time to buy stocks. Alright, so now that's complete. Control back up, actually page up to the top, and you want to save it right here. Wherever you save the file, that's where we'll open up next. Okay, that's it.